This wasn't just a title change. This was a warning. Nobody was ready for this. No build-up, no warning. One moment, WWE felt normal, and the next, everything changed. When Triple H made that decision on SmackDown, it wasn't just a new champion. It was a message, a warning. And now, WWE will never be the same again. The arena was loud that night. SmackDown always carried that electric buzz, but this time something felt different. It's a kind of different you can't name until it's too late. Triple H stood in the ring, microphone in hand, his suit sharp, his expression unreadable. He wasn't there to celebrate. He wasn't there to hype a pay-per-view. He was there to do something nobody saw coming. When he announced the new champion, the crowd didn't erupt. They froze. Confusion washed over thousands of faces like a wave hitting a shore. Social media exploded within seconds. Not with cheers, not with excitement, with shock, with disbelief, with anger. The wrestler who walked out with that title wasn't the fan favorite, wasn't the veteran everyone respected. It was someone who, just weeks ago, was considered mid-card at best. Someone who hadn't earned it in the eyes of the locker room. Someone who shouldn't have been anywhere near that gold. But Triple H didn't flinch. He didn't explain. He didn't apologize. He handed over the title, shook the new champion's hand, and walked backstage like he'd just ordered coffee.
Wow.
That silence, that refusal to defend his choice, spoke louder than any promo ever could. It was intentional, calculated, and it was designed to make everyone uncomfortable, because discomfort is where change begins. Behind the curtain, wrestlers stood frozen. Some stared at monitors in disbelief. Others threw their hands up and walked away. A few grabbed their phones immediately, texting agents, friends, anyone who might have an explanation. But there was none. Triple H had made the call alone. No committee. No voting. No creative meeting where everyone agreed this was the right move. It's just him, and that's what made it terrifying. This wasn't a storyline. This was a power play. A statement that the old rules, the politics, the backstage handshakes, the unwritten code of who deserves what were dead. Triple H wasn't just booking a match. He was tearing down a system. And the fallout was only beginning. Fans left the arena that night in silence. Not the silence of disappointment, but the silence of people who just watched something historic and didn't know how to process it. Some posted essays online defending the decision. Others called for Triple H to step down. Trending topics exploded. News outlets scrambled for takes. Wrestling podcasts went into emergency recording mode. Everyone had an opinion. Nobody had the truth. Because the truth was simpler and scarier than anyone wanted to admit, Triple H wasn't trying to make everyone happy. He was trying to make wrestling matter again. Sometimes that means burning everything down first. The locker room used to be a sacred space, a place where wrestlers could breathe, joke, and pretend the drama was just business. But after that SmackDown, it became a minefield. Every conversation carried weight. Every glance felt loaded. The new champion walked in the next day, title over their shoulder, and the room didn't go silent, it went cold. No one congratulated them. No handshakes. Pats on the back. Just eyes staring, judging, calculating. The veterans sat in the corner, arms crossed, whispering among themselves. They'd been in this business for decades. They knew how it was supposed to work. You paid your dues. You earned respect. You waited your turn. This new champion, they'd skip the line. And in wrestling, that's unforgivable. But here's the thing nobody wanted to say out loud. Some of those veterans were relieved. Relieved they didn't have to pretend anymore. Relieved the system that kept them locked in mid-card purgatory might finally crack open. Relieved that maybe, just maybe, Triple H was serious about shaking things up. But relief and resentment are twins. They look alike, feel alike, and destroy things just the same. One of the top stars, someone who'd been promised a title run for months, walked into Triple H's office that night. The door slammed shut behind them, voices raised. It's not screaming, but intense, pointed. The kind of conversation where every word is a test. When the door opened 20 minutes later, the wrestler walked out, jaw tight, eyes forward. They didn't speak to anyone. Just grabbed their bag and left the building. Rumors spread like wildfire. They're quitting. They're demanding a release. They're going to AEW. Triple H is losing control. The locker room is in revolt. But none of that was true. What actually happened was simpler and more painful. Triple H looked that wrestler in the eye and said, "If you can't handle this, you don't belong here anymore." And the wrestler realized he meant it. That's when the fear set in. Not fear of losing a match, fear of irrelevance. Fear that everything they'd worked for, every handshake, every favor, every political movement, nothing anymore. Triple H wasn't playing the game. He was changing it. If you couldn't adapt, you were done. Some wrestlers started training harder, cutting promos tighter, pitching ideas directly to Triple H instead of waiting to be noticed. Others sulked, complained to dirt sheets, leaked stories about backstage chaos. But the chaos wasn't chaos. It was evolution. It's painful, messy, necessary evolution. And in the middle of it all, the new champions stood alone. Not because they wanted to, because they had to. Because being chosen by Triple H didn't make them a star. It made them a target. Every match from here on out would be a test. Every promo, every segment, every moment under the lights proved they belonged or proved Triple H made a mistake. The locker room wasn't fractured because of jealousy. It was fractured because everyone knew the truth. This wasn't about one title. It was about the future. And not everyone was invited. Wrestling fans are passionate. That's the nice way to say it. It's the honest way. They're obsessive, tribal, and absolutely unforgiving. And when Triple H made that decision, he didn't just divide the locker room, he divided the world. Within hours, battle lines were drawn. Twitter became a war zone. Reddit threads exploded into 1,000-comment debates. YouTube channels dropped emergency videos with titles like Triple H just killed WWE and why this was genius booking. Everyone had a side. And everyone thought the other side was insane. The traditional fans, the ones who grew up watching the Attitude Era, who respected the grind, who believed in paying dues, were furious. They saw this as disrespect. A slap in the face to legends who'd carried the company for years. They flooded forums with essays about how wrestling was dying, how storylines didn't matter anymore, how Triple H was turning WWE into a circus. Some even stopped watching, canceled their subscriptions, declared they were done with wrestling forever. But they weren't done. They never are. Kept watching, kept commenting, kept analyzing every move Triple H made, looking for proof they were right. Because being angry is still being invested. On the other side were the new fans, the ones who'd grown tired of predictable booking, endless rematches, and the same 5 people holding every title. They saw this as revolution. As Triple H finally taking a risk, finally doing something bold and unpredictable. They defended the new champion like their life depended on it, created highlight reels, made fan art, started hashtags, turned skepticism into fuel, and then there were the quiet ones. It's the fans who didn't know what to think. They sat in the middle, watching both sides tear each other apart, wondering if maybe that was the point. Maybe Triple H didn't want everyone to agree. Maybe he wanted wrestling to feel dangerous again, unpredictable, real. Live events became strange. Some crowds chanted for the new champion. Others booed them mercilessly. Not the fun kind of boos, the kind that cut deep, the kind that make you question everything. The new champion learned fast that holding gold didn't mean respect. It meant surviving. Every night, every town, every match. Social media became a reflection of something deeper. This wasn't just about wrestling. It was about control, about who gets to decide what matters. The old guard believed in tradition, hierarchy, earning your spot. The new wave believed in shaking things up, taking chances, breaking rules. And Triple H, he believed in both, or neither, depending on the day. Because here's the secret. Nobody talks about Triple H didn't care if you loved the decision or hated it. Cared that you felt something, that you couldn't ignore it. You had to talk about it, debate it, obsess over it. Because the worst thing that can happen to wrestling isn't controversy, it's silence. And for the first time in years, nobody was silent. Triple H built his career on control. In the ring, backstage, and boardrooms, he learned early that power isn't given, it's taken. And when Vince McMahon finally stepped aside, Triple H inherited more than a company. He inherited expectations, a legacy, spotlight so bright it burns everything it touches. Everyone watched his every move. Shareholders wanted profits. Talent wanted opportunities. Fans wanted perfection. And the ghost of Vince McMahon loomed over every decision, whispering, "Would I have done this?" The pressure was crushing. Triple H couldn't just be good. He had to be revolutionary. He had to prove that WWE's future was brighter without Vince, that the changes weren't just cosmetic. He understood wrestling in a way even the man who invented modern sports entertainment didn't. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't emotional. It was calculated risk disguised as chaos. Triple H knew that if he played it safe, he gave the title to the obvious choice, the fan favorite. The one everyone expected he'd be labeled Vince 2.0, a puppet repeating old patterns. But if he took a chance, if he pushed someone unexpected into the spotlight, he'd either be a genius or a failure. And failure, at least, is memorable. Behind closed doors, the pressure grew. Executives questioned the decision. Sponsors raised eyebrows. Television networks asked for explanations. But Triple H held firm. He didn't justify, didn't backtrack, didn't apologize. Because the moment he explained himself, he'd lose the power. At home, things were different. Stephanie McMahon, his wife, and co-architect of WWE's future, saw the toll it took. The late-night strategy sessions, the endless phone calls, the weight of carrying a company that her father built, that her family bled for. She knew what this meant to him. It's not just business, identity. Proof that he wasn't just a wrestler who married into power, that he earned his place. But even she had doubts. Not about his vision, about the cost. Because every bold decision comes with casualties. Wrestlers pushed out, fans alienated, relationships damaged. And at some point, you have to ask, was it worth it? Triple H didn't have an answer. Not yet, because the story was still being written. Late one night, after a brutal week of backlash, Triple H sat alone in his office, the lights low, the building empty. On his desk sat a photo of him and Vince, decades ago, shaking hands after a match. Back when things were simpler. When the game was just about winning. He stared at that photo and wondered if Vince would have made the same call. Probably not. Vince believed in stars, in larger-than-life characters, in safe bets wrapped in spectacle. But Triple H believed in something else. He believed in chaos, in breaking people down to see who survives, in proving that WWE didn't need to play it safe anymore, because the wrestling world had changed. And if he didn't change with it, WWE would become a relic, a museum of what used to be great. So he made the hard call. And now, every single day, he had to live with it. 6 months passed. The new champion defended the title, lost some fans, gained others, improved in the ring, cut better promos. Slowly, painfully, started to prove they belonged. But something strange happened along the way, something nobody predicted. It stopped being about the champion. It started being about Triple H. Fans realized the real story wasn't who held the belt. It was who gave it to them, and why. Every decision Triple H made afterward was analyzed through the lens of that one moment. Every title change, every push, every release. People stopped asking, is this the right move? They started asking, what is Triple H trying to tell us? And that's when it clicked. Triple H wasn't just changing WWE, he was changing what it meant to be a fan. For decades, wrestling was predictable. You knew who'd win, who'd lose, who'd main event WrestleMania. It was safe, comfortable, and slowly dying because of it. By crowning an unexpected champion, Triple H didn't just shock the system, he reminded everyone that wrestling is supposed to be unpredictable, that you're supposed to feel something, that the best stories are the ones you don't see coming. And in the end, that's what he changed forever. Not WWE, not the locker room, not even the title picture. He changed the audience. He made them care again, made them argue, debate, and obsess. Made them remember why they fell in love with wrestling in the first place. Because wrestling isn't real, but the emotions it creates are. And nobody, not the wrestlers, not the fans, not even Triple H himself, was ready for what that would unleash. The decision that night wasn't perfect. It hurt people, divided fans, caused chaos. But it also reminded the world of something crucial. Wrestling isn't supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be dangerous, unpredictable, real enough to make you feel something. Triple H didn't just change WWE, he changed what it means to take a risk. And in a world obsessed with playing it safe, that might be the most revolutionary thing of all. Nobody was ready. But maybe that was the point.